I was scrolling Facebook Marketplace when I stumbled upon a 5-speed gearbox, but the funds at the time were a little tight, so it was dismissed. Then, next thing I knew, my Evo mates rocked up with the exact 5-speed, and I found out that my wife, in fact, went behind my back and purchased this gearbox for me. Now, getting to stripping this down, so we're going to be emptying the whole casing and then just taking both pieces down to get vapor blasted. They're pretty easy to work on, these 5-speeds. The 6-speed are a little bit more difficult, which you would have seen in one of my first videos I've posted that was pulling apart the 6-speed, because I absolutely obliterated 4th gear. We'll get started. We'll pull off the selector assembly or the shift assembly. Once that's out, then we can move on to pulling out our retaining detents, I call them, being a diesel mechanic, but I'm sure there's probably another name. Someone else has probably called them something else along the lines. All they are preloaded springs with a ball bearing on the end, which hold in place the selector shafts. So that's why you'll get that notch feeling. That's the ball running across the notch in the selector fork shafts. So let's start pulling it down. So as you can see, you just remove those 5 bolts and then get a pry bar in there, give it a light tap. That comes straight out like so. Have any issues, I'll pull that out before it falls in the gearbox. That slides just over the end there. Here I am draining the gearbox oil from the transmission. Now the oil is drained, so let's go ahead and separate the casing from the bell housing. Hopefully it's not too hard. One more retainer on the back side of the gearboxes here. So that'll probably be a T40 Torx bit, so let's go get that so we can get that out. So it was actually a T50, so very tight. So we'll have to go and get a breaker bar into that. So if you have a look inside the gearbox here, that bolt was actually holding in an idler gear that would probably put pressure on the rest of the gear set to keep it in place. We'll pull that guy out and there he is. So hopefully now the gearbox should separate. As you can see, it's been pulled apart now, so now we have to move both our shafts out, so then we can send this off to get cleaned. So here is our front differential, part of it anyway. So that is the drive gear that drives off the gearbox, to then transfer that through a shaft that connects in here to our front differential. And then this is our gear set. Another reason I wanted to go 5-speed is because these gear sets are supposed to be a lot stronger. If we have a look in here, it looks like it's had all new synchros done. All the gears have been checked and everything, so we should be all good on that front, but I may get it checked over again by someone else just to be extra sure, because I did buy this as an unknown condition. It was pulled apart by a mate, so I'm not too sure the exact story of what happened with this. But we also have shims we got to keep an eye and make sure we mark down where they went and where they were located, so then when we put it back together, it's all shimmed up and we won't have any issues or dramas at all. So now, while you guys were gone, my GoPro actually died, so I went and found a video on YouTube from Boosted Boys, and they showed getting the gears out this way, which is a lot simpler because the gears simply sit in here and you're not fighting this big transfer gear trying to get the whole shaft and everything out all as one. So let's just lift this off and then we'll be able to get everything else out relatively easy. That's where the speed sensor connects to, this ring on the differential here. Also, while it's apart, I'll be replacing the Diff tube. They have been known to break when you do launches or anything. I'm probably not going to be launching it a lot, but just in case, I want to upgrade that. The difference between this and a PPG Diff tube is that the wall thickness is a lot thicker, allowing for more strength and better protection. Let's get this out now. So as you can see, that all come out relatively easy. The whole selectors, the whole gear set all come out as one. As you can see, we have our shims inside here for our bearings. Now, a lot of the time the gearbox will have to be shimmed so that there is a certain preload on the bearing faces to prevent any noise or premature wear, and we might have to take those out before we get it vapor blasted, but being that they're on the inside, I'm not getting the inside cleaned. I just want the outside cleaned, so if we do get water or anything in here, I can just blow it out and we should have smooth sailing.
Now, this is some footage from the vapor blasters. Big shout out to Philip from Motor Scrub, who helped me get my casings cleaned. Here I am separating the front differential so that we can fit the upgraded diff tube in. Now they just give it a quick wipe down and make sure there's no dirt or metal shavings around it. Here are the spider gears from the inside of the differential. And then here is the comparison between the two shafts, obviously noting that the one on the right is a lot thicker, therefore the upgraded part.
I think we've been scammed.
Now, as you can see from these bolts, these threads are destroyed, and it looks like someone has had a go at this before. So now I'll have to order in some new bolts and fix the threads inside the housing before reinstalling. Alright, we're back to working on the gearbox of the car now. I did finally get our tap to fix the threads on our LSD casing, and also went and got some genuine Mitsubishi bolts. So luckily I went to Plethora Parts and they came through for us and got us some new bolts. So let's go and fix these threads. So as you can see, I have gone ahead and taped where the spider gears are inside the LSD because we don't want any metal shavings to get trapped inside there. All we're gonna do is get some of this tapping liquid, which helps cut these without getting it too hot or burning it. And then we'll go ahead and get our tap. Now this is the size on there, M12 by 1.25. Now that we have that, we can go ahead and put some liquid around the edge of the hole, grab our handle for our tap and start tapping the thread out without that nearby. One down, 9 more to go. Alright, now that that is all done, all of these threads have been tapped out and all cleaned, we can go ahead and remove the tape, blow out the threads with an air blower, and then we can start reassembling the gearbox LSD. Now I'm just installing the plate screws that hold the spider gears and shaft in place. And here I am installing the ring gear back into the assembly, but if you haven't noticed, I missed a crucial part of the assembly and I forgot to put the Loctite on the bolts before fitting. So I went and removed them again and then reapplied with Loctite.
Now we just have to add some Loctite to these, so just a small drop on the end. Then finger tighten all of the bolts so they've got a few threads in, and then we'll just use the gun just to nip them up. And now we've got to get our torque wrench, 132 Newton meters we have to do these up to, or if you're from America, that is 98 foot-pounds. And it's going to be quite difficult to do this on the bench, so might just have to lay it down and maybe get it in the vise.
Now I'm paint marking the bolts so that I know that I've checked and torqued them all.
Now we have to go and put our bearing races back in. So I marked them earlier so I know where they go. So just gives them a quick wipe down first. Put a little bit of oil in there. This side doesn't go in. Everything's lubricated before it gets in there. And these races are actually pretty good condition, so we should be fine to reuse those. May just have to use a hammer to tap them in.
Now I'm just giving the races a few love taps to ensure that they are fully home inside the housing. Then I'm just applying some oil onto the bearings to ensure that they are lubricated and they are ready to be reinstalled.
Now we got to go and put our gears back in, but I think we might have to lift that out to the side while we do that from memory. Ah dear, this is a lot harder than I remember it being. But it is a lot easier to pull apart than it is to put back together.
Here I am applying some sealant so that when the housings are back together, it is sealed and won't leak.
Alright, so all the silicone is back down on the gearbox. Now ready to sandwich the two halves together, and then we can go ahead and finish assembling it. So let's go get the top back on. Alright, so now that all the bolts are in, we now have to go and make sure that we go and torque them all up. So let's go torque those main bolts down, and then we can start putting back the rest of the gearbox. So we got our PDF of all of our torque specs here, and just down below we have our clutch housing cover to the mounting bolts, and it's 44 Newton meters. So let's go ahead and torque these bolts up.
Now I'm torquing it to the correct spec to ensure that everything is back to OEM.
Now that those are all torqued and paint marked, now we can turn the transmission around and go and put our idler gear inside of the transmission. Now I'll show you where that goes. It goes inside the oil pan cover. I'll spin it around and I'll give you a closer look. So if you look just inside here, you can see that little notch up there, just in here. So it slides inside here and it goes in that groove here and this runs along. Let's go and put this in there like so. Like that. That, and then we'll put our bolts in the side. Now that's in, we can go ahead and fit our little oil pan. I've already put sealant on this, so just a matter of putting it in. Now these are around 22 Newton meters, so these are fine just to do by hand ratchet. Once you get the feel for it, you don't really need to use a torque wrench on every single bolt. Now that most of the gearbox is back together, like how clean does that look? It looks bloody sensational. I did put the clutch fork in, but there is little felt parts that go here, which I'll just order some new ones and I'll put that back on later. But just to get it all back together for now and get this off my bench so then we can start doing the engine. But now we have this spot here, which is for our selector arm. Now we'll go and put this in and then start putting all the rest of the brackets on. We got some detents to put in as well, which are like this here, little roller bearings on there. And then when you move the forks, it'll then flick those. And some of these are even switches. So this one's a switch. It'll tell that switch to engage and go into turn the reverse light on or so what. So let's go get that selector in and then continue on.
Now I'm fitting the shaft's cover and then installing the clutch fork and the shaft.
Now our speed sensor, which goes in this hole here. I also forgot to get this bolt zinc coated, but that's fine. We won't have any issues with that. Now for our detents I was talking about earlier for the selector fork. So it's just a roller bearing, and when the forks move, it just flicks these. That also helps line them up. So there's 3 of those. I just put my hand in that sealant from before, so that's great. So they're all done. And another one just here, and that's for this selector fork, just to help it locate properly. Just make sure the hole's lined up right. This one, don't use a railgun on, just do it up by hand. That's better. Tight, perfect. Now spin this thing around, and I got a brand new clutch cylinder from Plethora Parts. I'll leave the description for him down below in the description. He's come through with nearly everything I can think of, even like from the smallest random clips, you name it, he's got it in stock. So I'll put it down below for those of you that are in Australia and want to order parts. I do believe he does international shipping, but just have a look and check out his website. So let's get that new clutch slave on, and then it should be pretty much done after that. Let's get that on. Look at that, brand new OEM, looks beautiful. Now just putting in a breather, trying not to spread any more silicone everywhere. It's all over my hands and rags. Another one up here. And then last but not least, our reverse switch, which is just here. Now I was gonna get a new one, but I don't really need to. It's just got a bit of corrosion on it. It's nothing too major. And that one just goes in there like so. Done. Now I think there is another part that I did need to put on here. So I just got to double check where that is. Fell off the table, here it is. Now this is a brand new shifter cable housing. What it does is it holds the shifter cables in, so I'll get it out of the box. And for those of you that are wanting to know the part number for this part, here it is. Now mine didn't actually come with this because I bought the gearbox second hand, so they're really good that I was able to find it. This one goes down here like so.
Now the gearbox is complete and it looks absolutely amazing. I'm so happy with how this turned out and I can't wait to get it back into the car and see how it looks in there.
Now, unfortunately, that will end today's episode. So super stoked with how this gearbox turned out. Now, I was really dreading pulling this apart because I just hate pulling apart stuff that shouldn't be pulled apart. Like, you don't really need to pull the gearbox apart unless it's damaged. So I did take a bit of a risk doing it, but I reckon everything should be sound and fine. It was good to actually see the gears and see that they were in actually really good condition. I was just absolutely stoked with how this come out. I pulled the pin and just did it. I thought I may as well, I'm going to the extent that I've been going to on this car, I may as well go that extra step and clean everything else up and put in all new bolts and hardware on. Massive shout out to, I want to give a shout out to Moto Scrub, which is the guys that done the vapor blasting, and also Plethora Parts and SSM Performance Parts. They helped out in finding different parts that I couldn't actually find myself or were unavailable at the time. So big shout out to those guys. I'll drop them in the description below. As usual, stay safe, drive safe, and I'll see you in the next episode. Peace.